What's up, everybody? Party Science here with Lefty. Today I have Dan Vieira. I met this gentleman as he strangled me at jujitsu. And let me just tell you, I've learned many lessons that, you think you're the toughest guy in the room, and then you meet somebody who's very humble, and the next thing you know, you're hugging it out, and then you see stars. So I'm excited to be here with him and just talk about his property management company and jujitsu and kids and all that craziness. So, Dan, thank you for having me, man.
Oh,
I
Lawrence?
appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, of course. Thank you for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. Um, so, I guess to start off business, because, we'll talk about strangling each other. Well, you strangling me. I don't know about me strangling you. But, we're sitting in your office. I remember when you launched this, a few years ago, and it was all kind of like, in the beginning stages. How did it all develop for you to now we're here, man?
Yeah, it was. We're about 4.5 years old. So it all came out of COVID. So we're sitting here, and I say, you know what? I'm tired of being told what to do and not being my boss, and we all think we can do it better. So I said, you know what? Something's got to give. This is it. We got to figure something out. So actually, it was a toss up between a property management company or opening up a barbershop.
Okay. All right. That's two different directions, definitely.
Yeah, so believe it or not, and I was like, you know what? I'm really good at organizing and thinking about the house. And I did a stint working for a different company over in Woburn, a facilities maintenance company at a larger scale than we are. And I was like, you know what? We're gonna give this property management thing a go. I'm sure we can do leaps and bounds, and we can really do some good. And it just took off. It was once we got our first couple of contracts, people saw what we were capable of and what we were doing and how we do it, and they just loved it, and they just morphed into people telling other people, and that whole marketing word of mouth thing, and everybody that lives in condos knows other people that live in condos, and they're all not happy with their present day property management company, so they're like, oh, you should talk to Dan from Castle Property Management. They're great. He runs our building. And that's pretty much how we've gotten the vast majority of our business. So.
Nice. So it was a lot of word of mouth.
Absolutely, yeah.
Should have moved that earlier. Okay, so barbershop? Two different spectrums in terms of what you do for service. Now, tell me what it was like getting the first customer for you.
Oh, it was great. It was fantastic. I actually took a picture of the set of keys once I had it to the property, and because I was just ecstatic. It was obviously we always remember our first property, right?
Yes.
Our first contract, our firstborn,
First
our
client,
first baby,
yeah,
first
yeah.
client. But yeah, no, it was great. I was ecstatic. We still have them. We still have them today, and I don't foresee them going anywhere. We're very happy. The relationship that we have together with that association and with Castle is just goes above and beyond. So it's great.
So what is for me, when I think property management, I think all things outside of a building, inside maintenance. What is it that you like to do, and then what do you do?
Oh boy, yeah. So we take on everything that people don't want to do.
Okay.
For example, you live in an association. Let's just call it a ABCD condominium association out of whatever Kingsborough or whatever, and there's 50 units in there. So each individual owner obviously isn't going to go out and shovel their own parking spots. They're not going to go out and mow their lawn. They're not going to replace any water heaters that blow for the community. So they, for those communities, they hire a property management company. And with that property management company, we're the ones that collect the condo fees. We distribute payments for electric, the master insurance policies, director of the board insurance. We communicate with the board of trustees, who is basically running the association. That's who we get hired by. They're our boss. We coordinate with landscaping. We coordinate with plowing. It's essentially running your own house, but at a much larger commercial scale, and that's what we do. Obviously, we take care of all the finances. We got to put all the financial reports. We forward them monthly to the board so that everybody's on the up and up, and everybody is kept on the same page. So we're very transparent when it comes to that. And we take care. We work with board of trustees for budgets. We create budgets for the new years. We try and stay within those budgets as much as possible. And
So board of trustees meaning like whatever conflicts you're working with, they have a board? Or
yeah,
how is
correct.
it?
Yep. So every association has a board or trustees, and they're the ones that are basically in charge of the association. So they get voted in by the other owners. Very thankless job. People, it's very hard to find people that want to volunteer and be part of the board because A, they don't get paid. B, people call them all the time, and which in turn they call me. So it actually takes a very special person to want to be on the board because they want to be on the board for change. They want to see things progress. They want to see things get changed and better and protect the investment, which is their property. So yeah, it's a thankless job being on the board, and I know that. I definitely know that for a fact. But yeah, there's a lot of communication between us and the board. There has to be because the how we roll is what the board knows, I know, and what I know, the board should know. So whoever either goes to the board or me, everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows everything.
Right.
That's the goal.
The idea.
That's the goal.
Right. So what was it like when you talked to Paulette and you're like, I'm going to start a property management company? What was
She
her...
was surprisingly very for it. She was there, give it a whirl. I think she was surprised of how fast it grew. I was surprised at how fast it grew, but then again,
That's a good problem.
if you do things properly and you're very good at it, and you you do what you say you are going to do, then you're gonna get more clients and you get more customers. It's as simple as that. But yeah, I mean, she was very supportive. I can't talk enough about her. She is. Paulette, my wife, by the way, extremely supportive. Like she's my number one fan. There've been like a couple of late nights where I had to tap into her and say, hey, I need some help filing. I need some help with some admin stuff. Come help me. And she worked all day and she dragged her feet and lower her head and came to help me. But like other than that, I mean, she's huge. She's an instrumental part of this.
Nice. So now, as you're building the company, you've launched the property management, you've got clients sustaining the business on a full-time basis. What's the goals, man? Like, what are you trying to do?
I want to grow to the point where it doesn't affect our productivity, where it doesn't affect how we manage properties. That's where people get into trouble. We have these bigger companies, you have other companies that bite off a little bit more than they can chew. And then all of a sudden they start ignoring properties, and then those other properties that start to call me. You have to know your limit. I would love to say that it's limitless. I want 1,000 properties to manage. I want to make a gazillion dollars. That's all great, but at the end of the day, I just want to survive. I want to make a decent living. I'm not looking to be a gazillionaire, but I'm not going to take on more properties than the business can sustain just for the sake of having properties and cash flow. When it's going to affect the way that we treat and do business with those properties. That's just bad business.
Right. Now, I guess, how long do you think it's going to take you if you had to kind of give an estimate of time to get to the point where you've capped it and you're like, all right, I got enough work?
I don't have an answer to that. I guess it'll all determine on when I get that one property contracted, and then I said, oops, that was the one that put us over the top. So I don't have an answer for you.
Trial and error.
Yeah.
Right.
And then that's when it'll stop.
Right. Now, do you see Nick? Do you see
Oh,
Emily?
boy.
Do you see them?
Yeah, I mean, I would love Nick. Nick is my son. He's in Merrimack College. He's studying business with a minor in film.
Nice.
And I would love for him to take over the business one day. He does work on like a per diem basis. I shoot him out to properties every now and then. Slowly getting his feet wet, learning about the business. We'll see.
And then Emily's off doing her own.
Yeah,
like,
Emily is
her
Emily.
dance,
She's a firecracker. That one's going 1,000 miles an hour. She's like, one day she wants to be a doctor, another day she wants to be a veterinarian, another day she wants to be a professional dancer. I mean, it's great. She's great. I mean, it's good for her, but I mean, Eventually, she'll settle on something that she wants to do, and this doesn't seem like it's in the cards for her. But who knows? Who knows?
Right. Now, for yourself, how do you balance? Because you still hit up jujitsu, you still do all these things, and sometimes I make a shit ton of excuses on why I don't go to these things.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you balance out fitness, family, and fun and work? Like, how do you do that for yourself?
I have the approach that being a business owner, especially a new business owner, if it was easy, everyone would be able to do it. It takes a certain level of sacrifice. I've answered calls and been on the computer and have conference calls and meetings at like 8 o'clock at night. People call later than what they really should.
Yes. Everything's an emergency.
I was literally, no lie, you can ask my wife, I was literally on the beach in the Dominican Republic on my phone, on vacation. And it just, that's what you have to do. I mean, it is what it is. I chose this path, this company, this business, and I'm not going to not answer a phone when part of what I tell my clients is I'm always going to be there for you, and I literally there for them. So, I mean, unfortunately, yeah, I can't split myself into 6 different people and be everywhere at once. Unfortunately, jiu-jitsu does take a little bit of a backseat just for the simple fact that I'm old and everything hurts.
Stop it.
And there are a bunch of mid-20-year-olds over there that just want to kill you, but they don't understand that I'm 45 years old and I don't heal as fast as they do when they get hurt. So yeah, well, obviously it's the families first and the business, and then jiu-jitsu. But it's just been, I've kind of run a string of bad luck there, where it seems like every time I go there, I've been hurting something new. And I think the age is definitely has something to do with that. But yeah, unfortunately, I come to the realization that I can't be everywhere at once. So I'm not going to not work on the business because I'm going to go work out. Whether it's running or jiu-jitsu or gym or whatever the case is, I mean, there are priorities. And going to the gym and working out and going for a run or running a marathon, that doesn't pay the bills. So.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I definitely understand that. We were talking off camera and you were kind of talking about how much easier it's been to run your own business in terms of scheduling and hurrying along to things. And I got to ask you, because for myself, I find myself like, I'll be hanging out with family, but I'm thinking about projects I got to take care of. Or I'm laying in bed, I'm like, all right, time to go to bed. And like, you try to sleep, but like your mind is like, all right, tomorrow I got to wake up, I got to do this.
Yeah.
So like, how often do you find yourself like that? And then what do you do to kind of like ease that so you can kind of enjoy the moment?
Typically that happens at about 4:30 in the morning. And, and what Paulette says is I have too many open tabs, right? Too many open tabs. And how I resolve that is I try and go back to sleep and close those tabs, but it doesn't happen. So I just get up. I get up, take a shower, and I come into the office. And then I work on all those open tabs, and actually it's beneficial for me because I get a head start. Like I get a head start, and I'm sure clients are like, why is he emailing me at 5:30 in the morning? But that's, I mean, if I were to stay in bed with all those open tabs, I would just literally stay in bed and drive myself crazy.
Right.
And just so I might as well just get up and start the work day.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I'm an early bird, so I love waking up at like 3:30, 4:30, because I also homeschool my son. So like
I don't love waking up at that time. I'm not.
I'm a fan because I find it that if I don't wake up at that time, I never feel like I got enough work done to satisfy the day. So like I'll wake up, I'll try to hit a run or something, whatever type of VR workout I can do. That's why I don't hit up jiu-jitsu as much, because like there's no 3 a.m. in class, 1:30 a.m. Yeah. They got a 6 a.m., but by then it's dad mode.
Right. Yeah.
Now, as you're coming in, you're doing the client work, is there like a certain structure or system that you find has made you productive in terms of like most efficient? Because I'm always curious to find out what other people do to help them kind of like get through the work instead of getting tied up in the work and not being able to get it done.
Well, it's a learning curve. I would never sit here and say, especially with the new company that we are, that we got it all figured out and we know everything. We don't. We don't. We especially administratively, we're leaps and bounds of what we were when we started. Especially when it comes to filing and documentation and forms for all these associations and everything that we have to do. 100% better, and we're only going to get better as time goes on. We're going to get more efficiently and streamlined, and that's essentially what it is. Like, for example, moving away from paper copies and physically filing them and going to the digital world, and you relying more on saving it in the cloud than saving it in a filing cabinet. Although we still do have paper. Listen, I'm a dinosaur. We still have paper backup because it's just, I refuse to let that go. God forbid anything ever happen to the cloud. At least we still have the paper backup. But it's, yeah, you at any point can just say, hey, what invoices do we pay for this month for this association? And it all comes up, which is fantastic. It's all about organizing, and we organize it to the point where our books are always open to any association member. So they just call ahead and they say, hey, I want to take a look at the books for ABCD Association. Sure, we'll schedule an appointment. They can come in and have at it. Nice. Take a look. It's their right, and I'm happy to show it to them.
Right. That's the transparency part that you were talking about.
Absolutely.
Now, when you got this office, do you still get the same feeling you do when you walk through the door, or is it? Because for me, like every time I buy a new piece of a DJ equipment or speaker,
it's like a new car.
Yeah, it's like a moment. So now, like, what was it like getting your office after working for yourself a few years out of your home? And then what's the feeling coming in? Like, do you still get that same like?
Yeah, it's still, this is what we created, right? And I say we because it takes a village. It's not just me. It's our office manager Sarah. It's a handyman and maintenance guy Dennis. It's definitely Paulette. It's the kids who have to understand that I have late nights. It's not just me. It's definitely everybody. So yeah, I come in and I'm like, you have to take a second and say, okay, we've grown thus far, and this is how far we've come, and this is what we have to show for it. What are the next 5 years going to be like? What are the next 10 years going to be like? You just got to put the nose down to the road, and you just got to grind, and we'll just see what happens. Just grow, and as long as the growth doesn't affect your product, then we're good.
Right. What's your favorite kind of work to do, like management-wise? Like, what is like your specific, not easiest, but necessarily like your favorite, whether it's the easiest or not, but what is your favorite type of property management work to do?
You know what? It's as frustrating as it is, and as much work as it is, it's taking over an association that was poorly run. And by that meaning, the previous property management company forgot about them, didn't care about them. There was lack of transparency. There was lack of interest in the property. There was no personal care there whatsoever. Lack of communication. I mean, you name it, it was happening. And especially with the finances, where I've taken over properties and there was like $900 in the operating account. And these were like some decent sized properties where did all this money go? It's like, what is going on here? And then to work with the board and then speak with the owners and have everybody on board to say, hey, this is how we're going to turn this around. This is what we have to do to turn this around. Here is the plan. It's not going to be done overnight because you guys, the association, took a lot of damage over a long period of time, and it's going to take a little bit to crawl back out of that hole. And actually working and physically seeing your blood, sweat, and tears into bringing that association back to where they have to be, that's my favorite part. It takes a very long time. It's very frustrating. But to go from a association that was neglected, ignored, being taken advantage of financially by some of these property management companies, and to turn them around and their operating account is now flourishing and we have excess and we can pay for maintenance and the bills are being paid on time and work is being done and everybody is in a much happier mood just overall when you show up at the property, that's very satisfying.
Nice. So let me try to understand this, right? Because I'm trying to put together everything that kind of your company encompasses for someone in a property. So you help them financially get to a point where they can have reservoir capital after you've kind of gotten everything up to where they'd like. Like, it kind of explain that to me in terms of like how that works. Like, are you going and saying, hey, this is your property, this is what you're telling me you'd like done, this is what your current budget is, this is how long it'll take us to get it to where you'd like based on your budget, and then from there, like, you're helping them build reserve capital to be able to have it for like something goes wrong? Like, how does that?
Right. So essentially, what ends up happening is, especially with some of these associations that we take over that were extremely mismanaged, we have to sit here, okay, and we say everything stops. It's now no work is getting done unless it's a safety issue or an emergency, because we need the funds to come in, and it takes about like 2-3 months for me to get like a little bit of an idea of the cash flow that's coming in. And then once I get a good idea of the cash flow that's coming in, now we can start doing like the repairs that have to be done. Once the repairs that have to be done within reason, more cash flow will be coming in. Some money gets dumped into the reserve. We come up with a capital improvement plan, which is, okay, what would you like to see within the next 5 years? These are the things that have to be done. And then there's another list of what would you like to see done. And those lists are very different, depending on who you ask.
Right, wants versus needs. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's essentially growing a baby from infant to toddler to child to teenager to adulthood, right? You get to see the progression of that. It was, association. But so there's one association in particular that there was one property management company who was very large, was just nickeling and dining them to death over everything, and they were literally bankrupting them. Mm-hmm. But the management company, as long as they got paid, they didn't care. It was a small association, so they didn't really care. Once I took over, all the nickeling and diming stopped, and they are doing so much better financially now, where repairs are getting done out of the operating account. We're not touching the reserve. Money's going into the reserve account. I mean, it's literally like a night and day transformation from where they were, which is sad, because unfortunately, it's like that's what gives property management companies a bad rep or a bad name. I went with this property management company and that's what they did to us, so they're all the same, which is not the case.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's difficult. It takes a lot of ingenuity to figure out how we're going to crawl out of each hole, right? Because every association is different. Every association is unique. You can't have one association that I have in Lowell and compare it to another association I have in Dracut, or even another association in Lowell. Every association is unique. It has its own community flair to it, I guess, sure, so to speak, right? And once you realize that, it just makes your job easier.
Do you find that the most common thing when it comes to property management is larger companies that have almost neglected a property?
Oh, 100%. And that's where I come in. Because what ends up happening with these larger companies, they'll hire a property manager, and they'll be like, all right, we're assigning you 30 properties. And then either they don't like it, they're overwhelmed, they leave, they quit. Well, now they have another property manager that comes in that they hire for those 30 properties. 9 months, 8 months, 6 months down the road, guess what? They quit, too stressed, here comes another one. I have associations that in the past, through these bigger companies, had like 6 property managers in a year, different ones in a year. And it's like, how do you...
property management meaning like the company's the same, but the person who's running it left.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And it's like, at that point, how do you get a vested interest in the property? How do you get to know the property? How do you get to know the community? You don't. You can't. It's impossible, because it's that revolving door. And that's where we come in, because it's me. It's me and my small staff. When you call, you either speak to the office manager or you speak to me. It's that simple. I'm not going anywhere. We're not gonna hire a property manager to take over all these properties, or to oversee these properties, and then all of a sudden he's gonna leave, and then I'll hire another one, and then we're gonna run into the same issues of what these bigger companies are doing, which is nobody ever gets to know the community, and that's sad. It's not good. And again, that's part of these associations' frustrations, and that's where we come in, and that's where we flourish, and that's when we can say, this is what we can do, this is what we do, this is where the personal property management. I've driven. I've been bored at times. I've driven into properties and just looking for someone to talk to. Just, I was just in the neighborhood, either running an errand or coming from another property, and just drive in there and just looking around and, slowly saying, someone gonna come out to talk to, hey, what's going on? Because that's to me is the best personal property manager that you can get, is that someone that is going to be at your property and engage the community and ask questions. And hey, it's not just the board of trustees, although they're great. They're a great tool and people to talk to, but you also want to talk to the residents. You want to know what's going on with them too, because they may have a completely different perspective of what's going on than the board. So yeah, it's I always say that to the associations, and I tell them, I promise I won't be sneaking in your backyard. It's I'll stay on the roads.
All right. So do you find that that's like the biggest asset you bring to a property? Like what are some of, like, because you've named helping them kind of get out of a rut, get there to the point where their financials can get to the place where what they dream of the property can slowly start to happen, and then you're taking it over from a company that has been neglecting. Like, what is, I guess
the meat and potatoes of Castle Property Management?
Yeah, like what are the benefits to coming to you?
It's the financial transparency. It's the lack of communication from other property management companies that we have learned that's what they want. They just want communication. We give them plenty of communication. We over communicate sometimes. And then it's the lack of personal property management, the lack of personal care. Those, if you were to walk up to me and say, what are the three identifiers of what are the three major complaints that associations have with property management company that they're not happy with? Lack of financial transparency, lack of communication, and lack of personal property management. It's not hard. It's very simple. Unfortunately, like I said, these bigger companies can't do that for them for whatever reason. But we can do that and then some. We're flourishing with that. That's kind of our meat and potatoes.
Nice. So what was it like hiring your first employee?
Scary.
Yeah?
Yeah. I would like to think I'm a good boss. Don't know what she would say, but now it's a little stressful because now you're responsible for someone's financial well-being, right? You want to make sure that payroll gets out. It's on a Sunday night, that's where it always pops up. It's time to run payroll, and it's like, oh, I just want to sit on the couch. I'm done. It's been busy all week, but you gotta get up. You gotta run payroll because they gotta get paid.
Right.
Translate into financial well-being right
Whoa,
now.
it's scary.
She's always listening.
She is. So that's the difference is knowing that other people are relying on you financially. That's all. And it's it's a little bit of a burden, but to get used to. But you just got to, like I say, you just got to suck it up, and you just got to sit there and say, it's time to do payroll. Time to do payroll.
Right. But the rewards of having the additional staff.
Oh, huge. Huge. I mean, listen, as much as I think I'm a superstar, I mean, I need help. Again, the business was not built solely by me. It was built by multiple people. And we would not be where we are today if it wasn't for these people. So I completely understand that. And I think, and I remind, Sarah, our office manager, every single day, and Dennis about that. When I'm tied up and he goes out to the properties, and obviously more importantly Paulette, where she's my cheerleader, my number one cheerleader. It's everybody. It's not just me. But it's again, if it was easy, everyone would open up a business and they would do it. It's I remember, you ever watch Shark Tank?
Of course.
Yeah, like Mark Cuban, right? He always says, and I think there's a couple of them that said that too. It was like, when I opened up my business, the first vacation I took was 9 years into I didn't take a vacation for 9 years because I was grinding on the, and I get it. I totally get it. If it was simple, it wouldn't be hard.
Right. There's a certain satisfaction that comes with getting it done every week. You know, like when you set out a certain amount of tasks and then you accomplish all those tasks, even though there's a bunch of them right behind
Right.
them.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a
yeah.
certain sense of like, I'm fucking doing this thing.
Yeah,
You know.
the sticky notes. You write everything down in a sticky note, and then there is nothing better than taking that sticky note off your desk and saying completed, and just ripping it off, and just going, oh, here's another one completed, and just physically ripping it off. And before you know it, you're sticking, you start to see your desk again. It's
Right.
not just sticky notes.
Right.
That's satisfaction.
Right. Now, when it comes to you as a dad, right? Because I'm always curious. Because so my son's autistic. I homeschool him. I spend a lot of time with him. Then I have my 17-year-old daughter who's too cool for me now. You know, everything is about her world, and I misunderstand.
And you don't know anything.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, you don't know
nothing,
anything.
nothing at all. So, like, how did you and Paulette meet? You know, how did that
No,
happen?
boy.
Because you know, you guys have been one of the longest standing couples that I know. And every time I see your social media, there was like, you're happy, like you're genuinely happy.
It's fake. It's a social media. No, I'm kidding.
It's good editing.
No, we've been married. Geez, we've been married 20 years, and we've been together for 23. We met on an ambulance because many moons ago I was an EMT for Cataldo Ambulance, and I was probably working there for 3 years, 4 years, and then all of a sudden here comes this, oh, it's this new girl. It's a new employee, no big deal, whatever. Then all of a sudden she like turns around and I'm like, whoa, I'm gonna marry that girl. I remember saying that, and yeah, she just like literally, you know how they say once you meet someone, you know they're the one.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't explain it. You just know that they're the one, whether it's guy, girl, or yeah. I just once I've like physically set eyes on her, I'm like, oh my God, I guess that's the one. So bizarre. But yeah, that's how we met. We ended up being partners together on an ambulance, which was good and bad because when you live together and you get into arguments, because everybody argues, right? At least you go to work and the argument stops, right? But no, when you work together, the argument follows you. And we did 24-hour shifts, right? So, of course, now we're sitting in a truck like this close, like inches apart. And yeah, there's no getting away from each other. It's the argument's going to follow you. And,
Right.
and there were some times where it was an argument that should have stayed at home. And then like cooler heads prevail when, you know, husband and wife went to work, different areas, and then came back and it was like, you know, everything cooled off. But no, it was like argument at home, argument on the way to work, argument during work, and then argument again going back home. But yeah, no, it was a small miracle how we even survived. It was good though. No, it was she was put there for a reason, I think, because she's from New Bedford originally, and we worked in Somerville. So yeah, it's just it's wild. It's a long time.
Yeah.
20 years married is a long time.
I didn't know you were an EMT.
Yeah.
Like I knew you were a cop
I was an EMT,
prior to this.
I was an EMT for 5 years.
Okay, I took EMT courses. I wanted to be a firefighter. Did the whole exam. Did all of that. And I give so much credit to people who do that. On
What
a
happened?
Like,
You just didn't get called? Or?
no, I never got called. I was 20th out of 200, and then the list never moved within the years that I was on the list.
That's awful.
I mean, it's worked out fine now. So
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, I know.
I cannot complain
Yeah,
now.
I know.
You know, but I have friends who are firefighters. I have friends who are police officers, and you see the type of toll that it can take on them being in the hardest of environments on a regular basis.
Yeah.
In terms of, I don't know if this is the right word, but this is the word that comes to mind is like the optimism they have for people is more for their close circle than it is for the general population sometimes because they see the worst of the worst on a regular basis.
Sure. Right.
You know, but then you get to talk to them on like a regular level, and once they kind of like unwind, you realize they just love people. That's why they do that type of job. So what made you want to be an EMT?
Yeah, no, I saw a commercial for it and I was like, I said, that looks cool. I was doing hospital security at that point. And then the EMT class was being held at actually that hospital by Boston EMS was hosting it. And I was like, well, that's great. Let me go in and try it. It was great because obviously I was working at the hospital as security. So all I had to do was go right downstairs wherever they had it, the cafeteria or whatever it was. They hosted it there. I forget, it went through the whole series. You got to take the state exam. You got to do the practical. I mean, geez, we're talking about, again, that was a long time ago. Yeah, no, it was it was good. You know, people always, you know, say is oh, what was your worst call? What was the worst thing that you saw? We've done like gunshots, we've done stabbings, we've done obviously cardiac arrest, we've done amputations. I mean, I've seen eviscerations, everything. I mean, like we literally took someone out of a fire scene that was rescued by the fire department, and I went to go grab their arm to move them from the porch, and nothing but their skin came out of my hand. All that stuff. It's like, that was bad. But you know what was really bad though? Is because Cataldo Ambulance did emergency 911 responses, but they also did what was called like transports back then, where it was like nursing home to nursing home or like hospital back home, whatever the case was. We went to a nursing home in the North End. And it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. We were bringing someone from a hospital back to the nursing home. So we were sitting at this nurse's station doing some paperwork. And I look over in the corner, and there was a resident, an older woman there, all dressed up with a jacket on, had a little suitcase next to her. And I said, what's going on with that? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Where's she going? And then the nurse said, oh no, she does it every night. She sits there. She thinks that her son is going to get her and to have her leave and to go home with the son. So obviously she was demented, some dementia. Yeah. So she sits there all night until the morning, and then she gets crushed when the son doesn't show up, and sits in beds and cries all day. And then at night again, when she wakes up, goes through the whole routine all over again. She gets up, gets dressed, sits in the same chair, packs all her stuff up after unpacking it when the son didn't come. And to just like sit there and just get crushed like that, like emotionally, day after day after, that's sad. Yeah. That was actually the worst thing I've seen, believe it or not. All the other stuff, that's just a day at the office. Yeah. That stuff though, that really hit me.
Yeah. That's one of my biggest fears, is like forgetting, losing my ability to...
I'm halfway there. Ask Paula, she'll tell you.
If you ask my fiance, she'd say the same thing. You know, she literally, I texted her earlier today because I booked a bunch of vlog episodes because I'm really trying to launch this.
Sure.
And I sent her a message saying like, hey babe, sorry I've packed up the schedule, you know, over the last month. Starting next month, this is my new routine and yada yada. So just so you know. And she literally texted me, you just said this to me like a week ago, you know? And I'm like,
just wanted to make sure that you knew.
Yeah, well, I definitely was like, there was a piece of me like, cover your ass, so this is going to turn into an argument, you know? So I definitely understand that. And now when you're experiencing things like that, what made you go from EMT to police officer? Like, how did that transition?
Yeah, no, I've always wanted to be a police officer. And then I got called. And got called to list for the transit police, and I spent some time there, and that's a whole new world. You get to see humanity at a whole different scale. It's a lot bad, some good, but I mean it is what it is.
So did you know you wanted to be a police officer when you were an EMT?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I always heard like the more training you had and the ability to like. I wanted to be a firefighter, but they're like, if you go become an EMT and a paramedic, you're more likely to get. So was that something, or like how did
that was part of it?
Yeah.
That was definitely part of it.
Right.
But yeah, it's I'm glad that part of my life is over. Let's just say that.
Right.
It was saw a lot, saw more than what I was supposed to, dealt with more than I was supposed to. That whole defund the police era. That was like
the dumbest thing ever. That was the dumbest fucking thing ever.
That was just a very unfortunate error in policing, and it just ruined everything.
Yeah. I'll say for you, that was fucking stupid. That's what that was. That whole movement is fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's there's not enough hours in the podcast to talk about that whole thing. Yeah. But
from the second I heard about it, I was like, "This is."
It's changed. Like policing changed. Policing changed. It's. I don't think it's ever going to go back to the way that it was. If it does, I hope it does, to a point. Obviously, not to the point where somebody jaywalks and you jump out of the police cruiser and you're beating them with a baton. That's ridiculous.
Right.
I'm talking about not having somebody walk up to you directly to your face and flip you off and call you all sorts of names, and then as you're trying to do your job, you have a cell phone shoved in your face as they're recording you. trying to bait you into arguments and trying to have you react to that so that they can either have a lawsuit or
That's what they're
you
hoping
can
for.
be YouTube famous or whatever the case is. It just took such an awful turn that you know that, so you know when you're done with something.
Right.
So that chapter of my life is definitely closed.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with that.
Well, I mean, you're doing. Look, man.
Yeah,
From the first day I saw it on Facebook, where you're like, "I'm launching this property management company," to where you are now, you've done very well for yourself. It's
not
Right,
on wood.
hey, I'm with you.
Yeah, keep grinding forward and keep getting clients and keep doing good things and keep telling clients this is what we're going to do and keep doing them and keeping our promises.
Right.
It's when you really break it down to that, to the bare bones, it's just that. Hey, this is what we are going to do. This is what we are saying. This is what we're going to promise that we are going to do with you. This is how we're going to do it, and then you do it. I think that's great for any business, not just property management. That's any business. It's like, hey, McDonald's, I'm going to give you the best tasting burger, and it's not going to look like crap. It's going to taste great, and the cheese is going to be melted perfectly, and it's going to be wonderful. And if that's what you give them, they're happy. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. Just do what you say you're going to do.
Right. Do you think some of the disciplines you've built for this business have come from those years of being in those grueling situations, to where like now doing this work comes at a little bit less of a stress level to you?
No, I think it was definitely the Marine Corps. So we have veteran owned and operated business. I was in the Marine Corps from long time ago. Yeah, 97. So I did a 4-year stint in the Marine Corps. I did some active duty time recruiting up in Waltham, and then went overseas to Okinawa, went overseas to Norway. The rest was stateside, and the rest was finished off in my reserve unit up in Maine, up in 1st Battalion, 25th Marines, and that definitely helped. That gave me the mentality of, we're going to figure this out come hell or high water, or there is just no failure, and that's what they instill in Marines. And whether it's go take that hill, go take that bunker, go secure that area, come hell or high water, that's what you're going to do. We're going to make this business succeed. Come hell or high water, that's what we're going to do. It's the never giving up attitude. I would say it was definitely that.
Yeah. What made you join the Marines? Because I have friends who like family was in it, so that's all they.
Yeah,
wanted to
no,
do
I
when
was
they got
actually
out.
the very first one. We come from a large family with like cousins and uncles, and that I was the very first one to go in the military. My parents did not like it at all, but yeah, it was something different. It was I love the motto of the Marines. When you sit down and you spoke to the recruiter and he was saying, hey, listen, this is what we're all about. This is what we do. You just absolutely fell in love with it and saying, you know what, I see myself being a Marine. And then you get to boot camp and it all turns to shit. And then you're like, why did I do this? And then you're sitting in a foxhole and it's raining and there's like, 5 inches of water and you're like, well, why didn't I do this? But overall, when you look at the big picture, I mean, I don't regret doing it at all. I tell Paulette all the time that I can out-iron her. She'll sit there.
That's some bragging rights that very few men will throw into
It
there.
is though. She'll sit there and she'll be like, I'm jumping in the shower. I'm trying to iron this real quick. I'm like, just go. I'll iron this for you. I mean, you're gonna mess it up anyway. Yeah, I mean, they're just invaluable life lessons that you learn there that you're never going to be able to get anywhere else. I highly recommend it. I mean, I know you have some countries where Portugal, I believe they don't do this anymore, but when my parents were growing up over there, when you finished school, you had 2 choices.
Mandatory.
It was either mandatory 2 years in the military, or you had to go to like a higher school, what was their version of a college. There was no gap year. There was no, well, I'm going to work. You had 2 choices. You either enrolled in higher education or you got shipped out in the military. It's one or the other. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I believe Greece had something similar when I was. I'm not sure if it's still the case or if it really was, but I remember my father telling me that if you wanted to own land or any type of property in the country, you had to have served. Now I'm not sure how accurate that was,
Yeah,
but
right.
when you say that, I'm like, oh well, I've heard.
So they
mandatory-
kind of strong on me with
Yeah,
it. Hey, if you want to own anything here, this is what you have to do.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how true it is, but I remember hearing something along the lines of like mandatory 2 years. So when you're saying that, I think that is a very like common thing amongst states overseas.
Yeah.
Now, here's my question to you. When it comes to being overseas, right, and doing those type of tours, I find that people who have just lived in the States don't understand how different it is in other countries. So when they're here, and I tell my kids this because they don't understand what it's like to have nothing.
Right.
Right? They've always had their own room. They've gotten their own toys.
Spoiled rotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
but you know
it's
why
our
they
fault
are?
because,
Yeah,
I want to.
You want to give them more than what you have.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Right.
So for yourself, having done these tours, do you find yourself feeling almost a little bit more understanding of situations than someone, or like for my kids, like my daughter considers them poor me stories when I told her that like my dad came here and we didn't have a home, we lived inside the pizzeria that we owned and we took showers in the three basins.
Right.
So like for yourself, having done these tours, like what do you think some of the lessons you took away from them?
It's not even the tours. We can like I good thing or bad thing depending on the way they look like it. We never got activated at the time that I was in. Part of me was like, what the hell? I did all that training and I wasn't, I was never activated to go anywhere. And the other part was like, well, I never got activated to go anywhere, so that's not a bad thing. But just that whole military set aside. So both my parents migrated here when they were in their mid-20s, and very shortly gave birth to my older sister, my older brother, and myself. And when I tell you that we were raised in America, obviously we were raised in Massachusetts in Somerville, but physically, but we were raised as though we were back in the Azorian Islands. And what I mean by that is three children, my sister, my brother, and me. We would fill that tub up one time with hot water, hot, clean water. It's not my sister went to go take a tub, empty the tub, new water. My brother went to go empty the tub, then I go, oh, no. This is, that tub gets filled one time, and all three of us gets to bathe in that tub of water. And we all used to fight between the three of us because the last person would get the dirty, cold water.
Right.
And the first person would get the clean, warm water. So we all, no, I want to go first. You went first last week. And it's just like, just crazy things like that was like, okay, like they'll, just like what you said, our kids will never experience that. They have their own bathrooms, they have their own sinks, it's a double sink, they got, their own toothpaste and this and that. I mean, I was, because my parents couldn't afford the dental insurance, the first time I ever went to the dentist, I was 13 years old. I mean, it's like, but my kids will never understand that because we dropped $8,000 on braces for them, when they're in their early teens. Yeah. So it's like, it's. But then, just like what I said before, it's you want to give them better than what you had, in hopes that when they get a little bit older and a little bit less selfish, they see it and they understand it and they're thankful for that. Hopefully,
Yeah. As they become more self-dependent, they
realize how hard it is. Yes.
Yeah.
I've never filled up so much gas in my life. It seems like that's all I do is put gas in cars, right? I obviously put my gas in my own car, and then Paulette, because she doesn't put gas in her car, because don't ask me why. The gas handle doesn't work with her hand. It must be a special code or something. And then
they knew how to do it before.
Yeah,
though.
well,
They had
I mean,
no problem doing it before.
Listen, she admits it. She's like, I can. I just don't like it. I don't like doing it. So of course, I feel bad whenever I get a chance to do it. I do it for her because she doesn't like doing it. Whatever. But it's like that's not bad enough. It's the kids, because we're trying to help them, right? Because Emily has like a part-time job teaching dance. She doesn't make a whole lot. Nick is in college. He works at a restaurant. He doesn't make a whole lot. So it's like, so the little things that we can do, like, let me fill up your car for you. So when we go out on like errands, we'll say, hey, who needs gas? We'll do the errand, and then on the way back, we'll fill up the tank. And it's like, that seems like that's all I'm doing. I'm just putting gas everywhere in cars. And just like, and it's like, it's like, I'm going to go broke just filling up cars with gas. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like our little way of helping them. And you'll get there.
Oh, I already find myself feeling like I'm talking like my dad was to me. Who left these lights on? You left the house. Why is the heat still on? What are you doing taking such a long shower? Like, just everything that I used to make fun of my dad or get annoyed. I wouldn't make fun of, get annoyed that my dad was doing.
Yeah.
I now find myself.
Because you're paying for it now.
Right,
That's
right.
why.
Yeah. I'm like, my biggest thing is my son. He'll ask for something to eat, and then halfway through it decide, I don't want that no more. While you're like finishing it up, making the eggs or the pancakes or whatever. Not interested anymore. I don't want that. I want this. And my fiance will gladly make the next thing. And then when the kids are home with me, she says I starve them because I'm like, no, they eat what I made.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
and,
it.
And she'll be like, you're starving them. And I'm like, no, I know starvation.
No. If they were hungry, they would eat.
Yes.
They're clearly not hungry.
Yeah, I was like, you see those pancakes? He didn't have them for breakfast. He's having them for lunch. So it is interesting to watch how, like, their development. Like the kids as they start to get older and have more responsibilities, you slowly start to see them.
Yeah, they start to slowly understand how expensive things are.
Yes.
And like things don't magically appear, right? Like you open up a fridge and there's a fridge full of food, and it's like, oh, there must have been like a little elf that came in the middle of the night and put all this food in it. It's like, no, we had to go out and we had to buy it. And it's like, go to the supermarket, see how much things cost. And Nick ended up having to go to the supermarket, and he bought like 4 things. He's like, okay, and it's like, well, yeah, hello, welcome to the real world.
When you have a family, was it 4, right? You have a family of 4. Yeah. So family of 4, easily $100 doesn't even fill up the basket, and you're like, and that food's gonna be gone.
Yeah, because he's on the meal plan for college, so he has like the card.
Okay.
He goes to the by the way, spectacular like food area they have there. It's not really a cafe. I don't even want to call it a cafeteria. It's like a, I don't know. It's just like a bunch of different restaurants and like cooking stations and stuff. When we visited the college, I'm like, oh my God, I could eat here every day. This is great. Which obviously the kids do this. So many different things that you can eat there, and that's what he does. He goes to college, he eats there, and he gets spoiled, and he comes home. He's like, what's he to eat? I don't know. Open the fridge.
Start cooking, bro. I've been at work all day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we got a few minutes, a little bit of time left. So now my favorite part is, let's talk jiu-jitsu and MMA, my guy. Did you watch any of the fights recently?
I did not. I'm not. And I hate to say this, but like I won't watch a fight unless it's like a big like promotion.
Sure.
I don't have the time for it.
Understandable.
Yeah.
I remember when we watched, I think it was Nate Diaz fight in your backyard during the party.
That was a year ago.
A few years ago. And I was like, oh, this guy must love MMA because you do jiu-jitsu and all that stuff. So I was like, oh, maybe he's got like some like hardcore. Like I watch every weekend if I can.
That you watch it a lot more than I do, my friend.
Well, I DJ for a living, so the second the gig's over, it's like the main fight is happening.
Yeah, perfect timing.
Yeah. So now, what do you find yourself doing as like downtime for yourself, if you have any? Like, do you still go to jiu-jitsu or not? Like, what is it?
I haven't gone in a couple weeks.
I'm
trying. It's hard going to jiu-jitsu regularly and trying not to hurt yourself. And I know they say, oh, well, floor roll and do this. There's ways they can. Yeah, okay, bullshit. Right? Because what ends up happening is you have like some spazzy
white belt
or someone, and like, or Nick, who thinks that,
time to try to fight my dad.
Exactly. It's like it's a fight to the death, according to him. And it's like, I'm going to hurt myself, and I'm going to hurt myself badly, or I'm going to have like a bruised up face, which I've had black eyes. And now I'm going to meet clients with like a black eye and all these cuts and stuff. And it's just like, that's bad. Hurting is like, I still have to do stuff for the business. And it's like, I can't hurt myself,
Right.
I'm trying to find a balance of going to jits, but not finding myself getting hurt every time I go there. Like just the last time I was there it was my hand. Like Nick ended up basically ripping my fingers off my hand, and my hand instantly swelled up, and it still hurts. And I'm just like, it's like no matter which way you turn. And before that, it was like I tore something in my stomach. I'm pretty sure I torn like an ab. I was out for like 2 months for that. That was crazy. And it's just every time I go, something heals. Every time I go there, something else breaks, or I tear or pull something else. And I'm like, this is insane. So I think that's a difficulty that I'm at now, is trying to go there but not get hurt. And I haven't figured it out yet. But
Do you do like the whole like ice bath, sauna, like that whole deal that everybody does? Like,
no,
'cause
I
I'm trying
cry.
to fig-
No, I cry.
cry.
Yeah, I take a shower and then I go to bed and then I cry, and that's it. That's yeah, and then I try and roll over. I try and roll over in bed. I do a little bit more crying, and then I wake up in the morning and it's just it's like an old Buick. You got to sit on the side of your bed for a little bit. You got to warm up a little bit, get the juices in the joints, then slowly walk to the bathroom, and then by the time you get there, hopefully everything is still attached, right? It's tough, man. I mean, they say the gentle art. There is nothing gentle about you. There's nothing gentle about that. And it's not going to get any easier the older I get. You know, I'm doing it because Nick does it. Obviously, Nick. So we've been doing it for a little over 6 years. So
He's a beast, by the way.
I know. That's the only reason why. One of the main reasons why I do is because I can't let him like.
Absolutely.
I at least need to fend him off at a minimum.
Yeah, you can't tap me. You might get me in a hard position, but you ain't gonna get me to tap.
But what happens is it's just nature, right? He's getting older and stronger. I'm getting older and weaker. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, it is what it is. His testosterone level is through the roof. Mine's going down. You know, but we all started with him. Wanting to have him do something individually because team sports he wasn't really doing the whole team sport thing. So, and then he did it for like 2 months, and then the professor came up to me and was like, "You're here anyways, waiting for him. Have you ever tried thinking about trying it?" I was like, "Oh shit, makes sense. I'm here anyways." So I did a trial class. I'm not sure if you remember.
So you started because of him. You didn't start first
No.
and then.
It was
here
him
I
that
was
started.
thinking you started. You know what I mean?
No,
Because
it was
I didn't know. So
yeah, and then I'm not sure if you remember Lucas Almeida,
the name sounds familiar.
the Brazilian kid.
Yeah,
Was
it's all.
really tall.
Yeah.
So he was, I want to say 14, 13 at the time, something like that when I started. And when I tell you, he might have even been like a little bit younger. And I was like 38, something like that. When I tell you that this teenager literally flung me upside down and used me as a mop. And I was like, talk about being humbled and talk about saying there's definitely something to this jiu-jitsu thing. That's what got me hooked. And I was like, you know what? I got to figure this out. Yeah. I got to figure out like how he can do this to me because this should not be happening.
Right.
Yeah. And it was just snowballed from there.
Yeah.
Into the old broken man that I am today.
That continues to go because he can't let his son.
That's it. Yeah, honestly. Yeah.
I get it. It's I thought I was a tough guy till I got Joey. It was Joey and Professor, and like Professor was just like you hear him snickering as you're making mistakes, and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna get him off of me, and then like you push as hard as hell, all your strength, everything you got, you're gassed out by the end of it, and they're just kind of looking at you like, oh, we still have like 2 minutes on the clock. I remember one time I choked Joey hard as hell trying to get him to tap, and like I obviously knew it was a shit try, but I was trying, and like then I was like, bro, I'm gassed, and he's like, no, it's not over. Now it's my turn. You can't just tap out because
my turn.
And and you start to realize that tough guy persona that you think you have as you're growing up, but have never gotten into a fight or nothing physical.
Yeah.
The second you hit those mats, it
makes you honest. It makes you there's no hiding, right? There's no hiding.
Yeah.
That's what I think I appreciate the most about that is all your flaws are there. Like love it or hate it, it's there. You know?
I once told my fiance, I was like, yeah, that guy can kick my ass. And she looked at me like confused that I would somehow admit that another man
Right.
could whoop my ass. But after you've been on the mats and you've rolled enough times, you know that you don't know.
And you get choked up by a 13-year-old
Oh,
teenager and you're
yeah.
38 years old. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You see the stars, right?
Yeah.
You tap right before all those stars come in, and the lightheaded feeling, the euphoric feeling sets in, and you're like, "Whoa, what just happened?" Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's very humbling. Now, I have one question for you before we kind of wrap up, and it's my favorite question of all, so I always kind of leave it for last. If you had to, right, and you said 45 now, is that what you're at?
45, yeah.
45, right?
Yeah.
So in 45 years, you've learned all these lessons to get you to where you are today. Now, if you could only take one lesson you've learned in these 45 years, rewind the clock, and have to start all over again to get to where you are today, but only have that one lesson as your foundation, what would that lesson be for you?
Saved more, worked harder, and gotten investment properties. 100%. Yeah. Worked harder, saved more, and gotten a few investment properties. So that fast forward 20 something years, 30 years, at least you get 2, 3 investment properties under your belt. Yeah, that's just income. It's money it's better than money in the bank, you know.
So creating a cash flow, a passive cash flow in a sense.
And it's just basically setting yourself up for retirement, essentially. I mean, because everyone keeps saying, "Oh, by the time you retire, you're not going to have Social Security checks coming in by the time you retire. It's going to go bankrupt." Who knows? But like at the end of the day, you don't. And this is what my problem is too. I always look way ahead, right? I have a plan A, I have a plan B, I have a plan C, and it's and when you look way ahead, you want to be like, oh, well, when I hit retirement age, what am I going to have to live off of? And it was like, oh, well, investment properties will help. Worst case scenario, you can sell 1 or 2 of them, invest them, put it in the stock market and live off that. So there's so many different avenues that you can approach investment properties once you have them. But that's definitely what I would have come back and be like, hey, stop banking your money. Maybe live with mom and dad a little bit longer, right? Start banking, use that to bank some more money before moving out and buying a house and stuff. But I mean, I would have no problem either. They'll be like, oh yeah, whatever, you're 28 years old, you're still living with mom? That's right. That's right, I damn am. Yeah, trying to set yourself up.
That's great advice. That hits me right here because I'm trying to convince my daughter to live with us as long as possible because I'm teaching her investing. That's what I like. That's my main thing. So you saying that, I'm like, yeah, that's a great fucking lesson. I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It's because like I said, what interest do you earn with money in the bank? Like your basic
less than
savings account.
It's $1,000 on for it's absolute trash.
Once you have the investment property, man, think about what you paid for your house when you first bought it and what it's worth today.
The appreciation.
Because I think of like when I bought my house back in 2009 and what it's worth today, it's more than doubled. So you can't go wrong.
Right. Now, if people are trying to contact you, reach you, what's the social media like? What's the best way to reach you in terms of Castle Property?
For Castle Property Management, absolutely.
Or just in general, if someone watches this video and they're like, "Hey, I'd love to reach out to the guy."
We have a website www.castlepropmanagement.com, PROP, or you can email. It's dan@castlepropmanagement.com. And my phone number is on the websites. Or we have social media. We're on Facebook and we're on Instagram.
And that's Castle Property Management.
Castle Property Management. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Not to be confused with the Castle Property Management in Florida, because apparently there's one in Florida.
All right.
And every now and then I'll get a call, but something's going on. I'm like, where are you calling from? So some associate. I'm like, I don't have any clients under that name. It's like, where are you living? He's like, oh, we're in Orlando, Florida. I'm like, nope, sorry, wrong castle. It's like, we're in Massachusetts. I can't send anyone. I'm sorry.
We're expanding. We'll get there eventually, but
yeah.
We'll see. But all right, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
No,
Dan.
I appreciate everything. I'm a huge fan. I've always been a huge fan.
You have I will forever be grateful for every gig you've given me because it seems like they've always been at the right time when I've needed it. So I'm always thankful.
Perfect.
But all right, everybody. Dan Vieira, Castle Property Management. Make sure you check him out. I'll put his social media here on the video. But other than that, talk to y'all later. Peace.